You want to share your
Political.
screen?
Oh man, the water. Get me right, man. All right, political climate of Rome. Um, you know, Israel. A lot of times, man, we see or we feel that during these times, man, it was just we couldn't do nothing that we wanted to do. We couldn't serve God the way we wanted to serve God, and we feel like um it was heavy persecution um during the time of Paul, specifically, and and even Christ, but we speaking more specifically on Paul in this lesson here, and what stuff that he was dealing with, um, what I'm saying, after the death, burial, and resurrection, and what the social climate really looked like, as far as when we dive into the text, because a lot of these things, I used to say, like, Paul had to write his letters when I was under that notion that when I thought that the Northern Kingdom, I don't think that now, but when I thought that the Northern Kingdom was Greeks and Gentiles, I used to teach that Paul had to write these letters, secretly. You know what I'm saying? He had to send these letters out secretly because, the Romans, what I'm saying, were reading these letters and had to send these things out, and he didn't want them, he had to write it where it looked like they was getting salvation also, but it really wasn't true. So he had to code these things in a way, because of how things were being ran, um under Roman rule. But I say we'll go through this text, man. We're gonna go through a few chapters in Acts. We'll start with first Maccabees, though. Social climate of Rome during the times of Christ. We'll start with first Maccabees 8. And we're gonna read 1 through 17.
First Maccabees chapter. This is First Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them.
Shalakia. So we see that Judas Maccabee, he heard about how Rome will lovingly accept all that join themselves unto them. This is before Christ. And will make and those that make a league unto them. Go ahead.
And that were men of great value. It was told also that of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them, and brought them under tribute, and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and the gold which is there, and that by their policy and patience that had conquered all the place, though it were very far from them, and the kings also that came against them from the uttermost part of the earth, till they had discomfited them and given them a great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year. Tribute is like taxes, right?
Right. They bought that money.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
bringing you under, but I'm just gonna put you under this tribute, man. I just want this. I just want these taxes. Render unto Caesar what is his. I want these tax money. So he's reminiscing. Just Maccabees is talking about all the times, hearing about how he did with Spain, how he did with Galatia. You know what I'm saying? And he took those people under them, and just collected the taxes from year after year. Go ahead.
In verse 5. Besides this, how they had discomfited in battle Philip and Perseus, king of the Sidonians, with others that lifted up themselves against them and had overcome them. How also Antiochus, the great king of the Asia, that came against them in battle, having 120 elephants with horsemen and chariots and a great army, was discomfited by them, and how they took him alive and covenanted covenanted that he and such as reigned after him should pay a great tribute and give hostages, and that which was agreed upon. And the country of India and Media and Lydia, and of the goodliness countries which they took of him and gave to King Eumenes. Moreover, how the Grecians had determined to come and destroy them, and that they, having knowledge thereof, sent against them a certain captain, and fighting with them, slew many of them, and carried away captives their wives and their children, and spoiled them, and took possessions of their lands, and pulled down their strongholds, and brought them to be their servants unto this day. It
Okay,
was
now we
told,
see Shalaki, we see that these Romans, the Grecians tried to come up against the Romans. They destroyed them, took their wives and their children, made them servants unto this day. Unto that day, meaning, when whoever is writing this, but during the time of Judas Maccabees. We don't really know the writer of First and Second Maccabees. But go ahead.
verse 11, it was told him besides how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all other kingdoms and isles that at any time resisted them. But with their friends and such as relied upon them, they kept amity, and that they nigh, wait, Shalaki, and that they had conquered kingdoms both far and nigh, insomuch as all that heard of their name were afraid of them. Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reigned, and whom again they displaced finally, that they were greatly exalted. Yet for all this, none of them wore a crown, or was clothed in purple, to be magnified thereby. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end they might be well ordered, and that they committed their government to one man every year, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them. In consideration of these things, Judas chose Eupolemus, the son of John, the son of Achos, and Jason, the son of Eleazar, and sent them to Rome to make a league of amity and confederacy with them.
All right, so we see Judas is his mouth is watering. You know what I'm saying? He liked the way they running things over there in Rome. You know what I'm saying? And we end up having during the Hasmonean dynasty and the Herodian, we end up making a Sanhedrin. I think it was like 24 high priests, or 24 priests or something like that, 24 elders that kind of made decisions, kind of mimicking Rome. Um and we see that, what was that verse? The clothing purple.
Oh,
Verse 14, yet for all this, none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. And so you can look at, how Israel is even looking at this, what I'm saying? Like, none of these folks really was like none of them really was making themselves like the king of everybody. They had a council of 320 people that talked every day, and then they elected one person to just, once a year to be you know what I'm saying, the leader of it, and they not wearing crowns, they not exalting themselves above everybody else. And so, seeing all of this, saying all this, Judas was like, you know what, man, let's try to make a league with these folks. Let's try to make a covenant with these people. All right. So we just were going through all of that. We read all of that just to see again, some of the legislation that Israel was seeing, and how they was like, you know what, that's not a bad idea, man. They running that thing like a well-oiled machine. All right, let's go to Acts 16. We're gonna read 11 through 40. That's gonna be a lot of, well, that's not a lot. But Paul and Silas, we're gonna see them being jailed. They're gonna see how, just again, just how things are working around these times with Rome in Judea.
Acts chapter 16, verse 11.
11. We're gonna read all of them. We're gonna finish off the chapter.
And verse 11. Therefore, losing from Troas, we came with a straight course to Samothracia, and the next day to Neapolis, and from thence to Philippi, which is the chief city of that part of Macedonia, and a colony. And we were in that city abiding certain days. And on the Sabbath day, we went out of the city by a riverside, where prayer was wont to be made. And we sat down and spake unto the woman which resorted thither. And a certain woman
thought to be made. Where prayer was thought to be made.
Okay. Verse 14, and a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worshipped God, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And when she was baptized, and her household, she besought us, saying, if ye have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. And it came to pass, as he went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain, and by soothsaying. The same followed Paul and us, and cried, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of the Messiah to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, these men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans.
Shalakia. So we see this soothsayer. All right, this divin, she's doing divinations, and she's saying that, hey man, these folks is finna, these people here, Paul and Silas, man, they're here to tell you that how to receive salvation. And she was just doing this, following them many, many days. And Paul got frustrated with it, and they're moving through, Macedonia. And I can, again, the text don't say this, so this is just speculation. You have to identify the fluff. That he may not have wanted that like just announced like that out of the gate. I'm just trying to see why Paul got so frustrated with it. But it was maybe just moving and not trying to again, what he's accused of is cause trouble and cause an uproar or a tumult within the city. But either no matter any case, that Paul got frustrated and cast that spirit out of her. And now we see okay, that her masters, her owners were displeased, and they took Paul and Silas to the rulers or to the magistrates, and and they told them, hey man, verse 21, it says, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive. Now a lot of us take that verse, that Acts 16:21, and we use that saying that this is something, or they not letting Israel keep the law. But this is a Roman saying that us Romans can't be doing this. You know what I'm saying? And he's teaching things that we shouldn't be doing, being Romans. You know what I'm saying? And that's very important that we don't miss that part there. Being Romans, what he's teaching and telling us to observe is not lawful. Verse 22.
Verse 22, and the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast to the stocks. And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken. And immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison awakened out of his sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, do thyself no harm, for we are all here. Then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas and brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, believe on the Lord, the Hamashiach, and thou shalt be saved and thy house. And they
And
spake unto him.
that's very important too, because we always go to before the death, burial, and resurrection, we always, what can we do to be saved? We always go to a point or a precept that's before the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. You know what I'm saying? And we got to be mindful of that. After that death and him being raised, you're in another dispensation. And now we see a jailer asking, a Roman jailer asking, what must I do to be saved? And you'll never hear us go into Acts 17, but we should combine the two. We should go to Acts 17 and 31. It says, believe on the Lord Yahushua, the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved. And then we should also go to the Matthew 19:16. The young rich ruler. What must I do to be saved and to keep the commandments? And so these should be combined. And this is what I'm saying about us just elevating, just elevating the camps. Not, we just have to redesign it. It just has to be the redesign. There's a lot of things that's being left out, important things. Because if we don't say you believing on Christ, then whatever you say after that is null and void. You could tell these folks to keep the law, but they don't believe in Christ, then it's null and void. So we should hit the Acts 17:31 should be first. What must I do to be saved? Do you know how to be saved? What must I do to be saved? Acts 17:31. Then we hit them with the Matthew 19:16 to tell them to keep these commandments and combine it. So go ahead, though, Shalak.
Verse 32. And they spake unto him with a word. They spake unto him the word of the Lord, and to all that were in his house. And he took them the same hour of the night, and washed their stripes, and was baptized, he and all his straightway. And when he had brought them into his house, he set meat before them, and rejoiced, believing in God with all his house. And when it was day, the magistrate sent the sergeants, saying, let those men go. And the keeper of the prison told them, saying to Paul, the magistrate has sent to let you go. Now therefore depart and go in peace. But Paul said unto them, they have beaten us openly uncondemned, being Romans, and have cast us into prison. And now do they thrust us out privily? Nay, verily, but let them come themselves and fetch us out. And it
Shalakia.
started.
So Paul said, man, these folks was wrong for doing this. They know they was wrong. They know they was wrong. So now they just sending you to try to tell us, hey man, just go in peace. Y'all good. Nah, Paul like, nah, man. They know he's wrong. Let them come tell us, what I'm saying, openly, that they was wrong and that we can leave. Let them come do that. No, you ain't finna do me like that and beat us openly and then try to secretly send us out. You know what I'm saying? You need to know, and then the people need to know that you wrongfully accused us. Go ahead.
Um, Acts
38.
Acts 16 and 38. And the sergeants told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared when they heard that they were Romans. And they came and besought them and brought them out and desired them to depart out of the city. And they went out of the prison and entered into the house of Lydia. And when they had seen the brethren, they comforted them and departed.
Yeah, Shalaki. So, they once again we see the politics. We see the politics. We see how things are being operated. All right, he took it to the magistrates. The magistrates, once he realized that they were Romans, they were feared. They came, probably apologized, probably, what I'm saying, tried to comfort them, but it was really like, man, what I'm saying, we try to get you to get up out of our city, man. We try to get you to get up out of our area. And you go somewhere else with that mess, man. But they did have to come down there and see them folks and release Paul and Silas, and then they go back to Lydia. And so again, just the political climate, we see how things operate. It's really it's organized. It was some unfair treatment there, but they still knew that they were under some legislation where they couldn't do certain things to Gentiles, as far as they concerned, anybody not a Roman, to these foreign nations, to them. There were certain legislations put in place that they couldn't just do whatever they wanted to do. They'll have to answer to Caesar. They have to answer to Rome, especially when you're dealing with Roman citizens and you're treating them unfair. And Paul was a Jew that had Roman citizenship. Let's look at 17. We're gonna read 1 through 13. Berea is stirred.
Hold on, let me write that down. 17. This is Acts
and
chapter
again,
17.
too, with the 16, I want us to take too that the city was troubled. Okay, the whole city. This man is that the masters of that woman who was doing the divinations. He went and told the magistrate or the sergeant that these people are stirring up trouble in the city. They're stirring up trouble in the city, teaching these customs that as a Roman we shouldn't be doing. And the stirring up of trouble gonna be very important and the key to what we're gonna be what we really dealing with. Berea is stirred. Let's look at Acts 17, verse 1 through 13.
Acts chapter 17 and verse 1. Now, when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where was a synagogue of the Jews. And Paul, as his manner was, went in unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them of the scriptures, opening and alleging that Christ must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Messiah, whom I preach unto you, is Christ.
And Shalakia, we see the reasoning, and that's what we have to do, man. A lot of people get offended by people questioning doctrines and we having the talks and brothers going sharpening swords. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Paul's going in the synagogue. They don't went to that 3 Sabbaths. They've been reasoning out of the scriptures. They've been going back and forth, reasoning, trying to figure this thing out, trying to convince, Paul trying to convince them of the gospel of Christ. And he's done this 3 times, man. You know what I'm saying? Opening and allegedly, much needs have suffered and risen again from the dead. That death, burial, and resurrection. What we at, verse 4?
Verse 4. And some of them believed and consorted with Paul and Silas, and of the devout Greeks a great multitude, and of the chief women not a few.
Okay, so now we see it's 3 types of individuals here. Some of them believe, which we would see as the Jews, and consorted with Paul and Silas, and of the devout Greeks, a great multitude, and of the chief women, not a few. You know what I'm saying? A great number of the chief women also. Go ahead.
but the Jews, which believed not, moved with envy, took unto them certain lewd fellows of the baser sort, and gathered a company, and set all the city on an uproar, and assaulted the house of Jason, and sought to bring them out to the people. And when they found them not, they drew Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, These that have turned the world upside down are come hither also.
These that have turned the world upside down. You know what I'm saying? That's also, given the, how they view, how they view the world. These Romans is pretty much just, the land that they've conquered. They've turned that world upside down by teaching the gospel of Christ. Go ahead.
Verse 7, whom Jason had received, and these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Jesus.
And then now they're saying, now look, now they're saying, well, listen, man, they always have to go. They can't just persecute them. The Jews just can't persecute them. And that you're not in, he's not in Judea. You know what I'm saying? For one. And so they have to bring them to the Roman officials and bring up charges. And now he's bringing up charges saying, hey, man, it's really not about the doctrine, but the doctrine, what's crazy about the doctrine is that he's saying that there's only one king, that Caesar's not the king, but Christ is the king, that Yahushua is the king. And this is how he got to throw this wrench in here to get these magistrates, because if he don't, then they're not gonna really be bothered with it. If it's just a doctrine issue amongst the Jews, he don't care nothing about it. The Roman officials ain't gonna care nothing about it. But when you saying that you king over it's only one king and Caesar ain't king, and you bucking against the Roman rule, then it's a problem. Go ahead.
Verse 8, and they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. And when they had taken security of Jason and of the other, they let them go. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews.
And Shalaki, that verse 9, it says, and when they had taken security of Jason and the others and of the other, they let them go. What is the security? He says they have taken security, and the security goes into them posting bail, them posting bond. And it's gonna be hard. Let me see. The NLT, yeah, sure, Shalakia. So the NLT reads verse 9. So the officials forced Jason and the other believers to post bond, and then they released him. All right, and then they release it. So it goes into, but you're gonna miss that if you're not, you know what I'm saying? You don't know what that is. You don't know what that is. We got to be humble enough to understand. Maybe we don't know what that means, man. So he posted bond, and again, we just seeing how these things are, how the social, how the political climate actually work within Rome. Jokers is posting bond. You post bond, post bond. I have a pre-trial, you post bond, get up out of there, man. Almost similar to what we have today. And so then they get released and they're going to Berea. Go ahead. But we see that, again, they're being accused. They were accused of stirring up the city in Macedonia. And now they've posted bond and they're moving out to Berea, to the synagogue of the Jews.
Verse 11.
Verse 10.
Uh, verse 10. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. Then these were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. Therefore many of them believed, also of honorable women, which were Greeks, and of men not a few.
Same speech. We see the same speech there. Many of them believe. Who is the them? It's the Jews of Berea. Also honorable women, which were Greeks, and men, not a few. But we see, we see Berea, the Jews in Berea studying the scriptures, man. They really studying the scriptures. And they received the word with all readiness of mind and search the scriptures daily to make sure that those things that Paul and Silas are teaching are true. And we have to do this, even with, even against leadership, man. You have to, don't just take what I'm saying. Just don't take what other brothers are saying or other leaders are saying. Examine those things, search the scriptures daily, and make sure that those things are true and that they're lining up and that there's not isolated doctrines or isolated verses pulled out of chapters and so forth. Go ahead.
Verse 13. But when the Jews of Thessalonica had knowledge that the word of God was preached of Paul at Berea, they came thither also and stirred up the people. Keep going.
Oh yeah, so no, that was it. That was it. They came hither. So we see the Jews of Thessalonica. They hearing that Paul and them went to Berea. They so jealous and envious, man. They don't follow these folks. They don't follow these folks and did what? They stirred up. They finna stir up the people in Berea also. You know what I'm saying? And so, imagine somebody doing that, in here. Imagine Islam doing that here. Imagine the wars breaking out amongst the Muslims here, amongst the nation of Islam and and I don't know what they call them, man. What's the Sunni Muslims or the other Muslims? Or the more serious ones, that like the Al Qaeda or something like that. Not saying Al Qaeda because they're a terrorist group, but the Muslims that are they follow it strict, man. And they're beefing with the Nation of Islam. To the point where it's not peace. They causing uproar. They're destroying. They rioting. You know what I'm saying? They trying to kill some of these folks. What you think the America gonna do? What you think the city officials are gonna do? What you think the police gonna do? They gonna get involved and try to jail some of these folks and try to, try to break these things up when we causing these tumults. And this is what's happening amongst believing Jews and non-believing Jews and non-believing Jews versus believing Jews and Gentiles. There is a beef that's happening between them from city to city in these Gentile nations. And we see that even in these Thessalonica, they're allowing you to have a whole synagogue. In Macedonia, they're allowing you to have a whole synagogue. You know what I'm saying? And this synagogue does have Gentiles in. You can't just have a synagogue. You think you're gonna have something, you ain't gonna let certain people in there. That I don't think it's gonna work like that. But we seen Jews and Gentiles in these synagogues. So we can't turn around and say, well, these folks ain't allowing us to do allowing us to keep the law when they allowed you to build a whole synagogue there. Let's look at Acts chapter 18, verse 1 and 2, because this is what made me build up this whole lesson. It made me say, you know what, maybe I don't know what's going on. And maybe I got the wrong view of what I think is going on around this period. 18, 1 and 2.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 18, and verse 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them.
All right, and so we see that in parentheses there, it's like a footnote. These folks want us to understand. These modern translators want us to understand that this happened. These Jews are being expelled. He's met Aquila and Priscilla. They, because the Jews at this point have been expelled from Rome or from Italy. Well, yeah, Shalakia, from Rome. So let's see what happened, what made Claudius do that. And so we look into Claudius here. It says Roman Empire. Can you see that? It says Roman Emperor 41 through 54 CE. Claudius was partly assisted in his ascension to the throne by diplomacy, Shalaki, of Agrippa the First, whom he appointed as king of Judea, restoring the lands ruled by his grandfather Herod. After Agrippa's death, he reestablished the rule of the procurators. Although in 49 he allotted Agrippa II parts of northern Palestine, he nevertheless continued to receive sympathetically Jewish embassies, and granted the Jews inter alia the right to appoint high priests to administer the temple and its funds, and to look after the high priestly vestments. On the death of Caligula, rioting broke out between the Jews. Watch this now. Rioting broke out between the Jews and Greeks of Alexandria over the question of equal civic rights. Claudius quelled the riots and issued 2 edicts. In one, he reaffirmed the rights of the Jews of Alexandria to keep their religion and ethnarch, while directing both parties to maintain the peace. In another edict issued to the world at large, Claudius reaffirmed the same privileges to the rest of the Jews in the Roman Empire. He also decided in favor of the Jews in their dispute with the Samaritans and banished Cumanus Ventidius, procurator at the time. And so that's a whole another thing that can take you to somewhere else. I ain't go down that alley yet about the dispute between, to see historically what that was going into with the Jews and their dispute with the Samaritans. Influenced by his friendship with the family of Agrippa, he took steps to secure the rights of Jews in other parts of the empire, put down disturbances against them in Alexandria, and had their privileges restored. According to Suetonius, Claudius banished the Jews from Rome, but the details are obscure. This disputes between Jews and the members of the Christian sect in Rome had caused disturbances, and Claudius apparently either banished certain Jews or prohibited them from assembling, which led to their voluntary departure sometime between 41 and 50 CE. It is generally accepted that the emperor's aim was the preservation of peace and not an act of hostility toward the Jews. And so you see, initially Claudius is, trying to keep peace, trying to give, trying to have some kind of equality as far as civil rights go, amongst, amongst the Jews in Alexandria and the Alexandrians. And we see him giving them, initially giving them, the rights to, do their religious services as Jews. But, once these disputes start roaring up, once these disturbances start roaring up, he ends up banishing them up out of this. Another article on it. why did Claudius prohibit Roman Jews from meeting in synagogues in 41 CE? We know from the ancient Roman historian Claudius Dio, the emperor Claudius ordered the Jews not to hold meetings in Rome around 41 CE, and yet Claudius does not explicitly reveal why Claudius would prohibit Roman Jews from meeting in synagogues. If we look at Claudius' letter to Alexandria, we see that he specifically warns the Jews not to engage in certain activities, which, if carried out, would entice his wrath upon them. For example, he warns them not to agitate for more privileges than they formerly possessed, and not in the future to send out a separate embassy, and not to bring in or admit Jews who come down the river from Egypt or from Syria, or else he would all means take vengeance on them as fomenters of which is a general plague infecting the whole world. So that's very important too. We see that he's saying don't bring these Jews down who come down from Egypt and Syria. You know what I'm saying? Don't be sent up here. Don't ask for more rights than you already have. Don't ask for more privileges than that you already have, etc. It seems plausible then that Claudius' ban on Jewish synagogue meetings was an attempt to restrict Jewish activity in general terms, with the intention of limiting any further religious or political disturbances. Many scholars contend that this ban failed to stifle Jewish activity in the manner envisioned by Claudius, leading him to expel the Jews from Rome later that decade. This appears to be an event referred to in Acts 18:2, which notes that Paul found a Jew named Aquila in the native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had ordered all Jews to leave Rome. Moreover, Suetonius, another Roman historian, wrote, since the Jews constantly made disturbances at the instigation of Chrestus, he expelled them from Rome. Although scholars are not completely agreed on this point, it is likely that Chrestus' conflict involved disputes about Christ. If the expulsion of Jews from Rome was indeed a result of Christian disturbances, the question remains, was the synagogue ban also a result of conflict surrounding Jesus within Jewish circles? Helga Batterman is one scholar who argues that both the ban and the expulsion were results of various disputes surrounding early Christians. Though the data available is limited, the book of Acts does present quite a bit of conflict between Paul and his Jewish contemporaries, suggesting that the reconstruction is certainly possible. And so that's why I was going into all of these disturbances. There's more in the book of Acts, so I just grabbed a few, just to go over these disturbances that were happening, and, these folks being brought to the magistrates, and, just over and over again, they having to deal with these things, and, even getting themselves in trouble somewhat because Paul was a Roman and messing around and, treating him a certain way, not realizing that he was a Roman citizen. Paul on house arrest. Let's look at Acts 24. And Shalakia, this is where I might not have said that. I might thought I said that, but during this period is where a lot of these things are being written out. And I understand it too, man. Paul didn't go to Rome. You know what I'm saying? Paul was trying to get to Rome, and he ended up not going to Rome. The only time he really went to Rome was when he was, being brought to get persecuted, to face trial. But he wrote his letter to Rome before he ever visited, or he was able to go visit Rome personally. Acts 24 and 18.
This is Acts chapter 24 and verse 18. And it reads, whereupon certain Jews...
You start there. You start there.
Whereupon certain Jews from Asia Asia found me purified in the temple, neither with multitude nor with tumult, who ought to have been here before thee, and object if they had aught against me. Or else let these same here say, if they have found any evil doing in me while I stood before the council, except it be for this one voice that I cried standing among them, touching the resurrection of the dead. I am called and questioned by you this day. And when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of that way, he deferred them and said, why Lysias, the chief captain, shall come down, I will know the uttermost of your matter. And he commanded a centurion to keep Paul and to let him have liberty, and that he should forbid none of his acquaintance to minister or come unto him.
So listeners, he commanded the centurion to keep Paul. He got to guard Paul, but Paul has certain liberties. Right, and to let him have liberty, and that he should forbade none of his acquaintances to minister or to come unto him. And this is how, Luke is going in there and he's getting certain information from Paul. You have other people coming and carrying these letters off to these other people, because Paul, like I said, he's like on this house arrest. He's not hemmed up, in a prison. This is where he's writing these letters. This is why he's writing most of these letters during this period that he's sitting down. Go ahead.
Verse 24, and after certain days, when Felix came with his wife, Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Paul and heard him concerning the faith in Christ. And as he reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come, Felix trembled and answered, go thy way, for this time, when I have a convenient season, I will call for thee. He hoped all that money should have been given him of Paul, that he might loose him.
He thought Paul was going to ask him to bribe him. He thought Paul was going to give him some money to let him loose. So he even brought his wife down there. He trying to finesse. He brought his wife down there who was a Jew. He was not a Jew, but he brought his wife down there who was a Jewess, and thought he was going, he was going to listen, and he got more knowledge, and he stopped hearing what he said. I come back when I finish. But he was hoping that he was listening attentively, and that he might feel comfortable enough. Paul may feel comfortable enough to give him some money to let him go. Go ahead.
She said, that he might loose him. Wherefore he sent for him the oftener and communed with him. But after
he was
2
dealing
years,
with him often. Go ahead, Shalaki.
But after 2 years, Porcius Festus came into Felix's room, and Felix, willing to show the Jews a pleasure, left Paul bound.
All right, and so we see even after 2 years, once Festus comes in, Felix again willing to show the Jews a pleasure. Why is he willing to show the Jews a pleasure? Because he want to calm them down, man. Because he want to keep them in in good standing. You know what I'm saying? He don't want them having an uproar, because if the Jews have an uproar while he's over them, then, or while he's in this position, then they'll overthrow him, get him up out of there. The Romans may even kill him. So he's willing to show the Jews a pleasure. He left Paul bound, just like Pilate. You know what I'm saying? He just let the Jews have it. And they brung up the uproar. They wanted Christ dead. He's like, hey man, I wash my hands with it. Y'all go ahead, man. But it's just to try to keep the peace. Not really concerned with what's going on or who's right or wrong. I'm just trying to keep the peace as a Roman official. And that's gonna keep Caesar happy, because as long as we got the peace there and everything's running, they can get the tribute. We can get the tax money and keep things moving. Paul appeals to Caesar. Let's look at Acts 25, and we're gonna read 6 to 15. I think it's the last slide here.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 25 and verse 6. And when he had tarried among them more than 10 days, he went down unto Caesarea, and the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, commanded Paul to be brought. And when he was come, the Jews which came down from Jerusalem stood round about, and laid many and grievous complaints against Paul, which they could not prove.
Now come on, now the Jews that came up there, and they like, man. We know y'all holding Paul, man. Y'all know y'all got him over here, man, chilling and kicking the bobo, man. Man. This joker done did all kind of craziness, man. You gotta die. Go ahead.
Well, he answered for himself, neither against the law of the Jew, neither against the temple, nor against Caesar have I offended anything at all. But Festus, willing to do the Jews a pleasure, answered Paul and said, wilt thou go up to Jerusalem and there be judged of these things before me? Then said Paul, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged. To the Jews have I done no wrong, as thou very well knowest.
Come on now. Now Paul said, man, I ain't going down there to be judged. I don't want to be judged by Judea. I don't want to be judged by my own people, man. I ain't done nothing, man. I ain't going down there to be judged. I'm going to be judged by Caesar. And again, it shows the political climate that was going on there. He's like, man, I don't even want my. Then you have a point where Judea can judge you. All right, well, there's a king over them that's there to please them, to keep them quiet. And Paul knows that if he goes down there, he's gonna die. He definitely gonna die. He go down there. But I go to Caesar, you know what I'm saying? I stand a better chance at hearing my word and having a decent trial. I ain't gonna say necessarily fair, but it'll probably be more fair than what's going on down there in Judea. Go ahead, though.
Verse 11. For if I be an offender, or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. But if there be none of these things wherefore these accuse me, no man may deliver me unto them. I appeal unto Caesar. Then Festus, when he had conferred with the council, answered, hast thou appealed unto Caesar? Unto Caesar shalt thou go.
Yeah, so Joker ask you again, saying something, Joker ask you again, you know what I'm saying? You already know that, like, hey man, that's what you want. I ask you Caesar. And you go. He said, listen, man, if I done anything, Paul said, if I done anything, man, I refuse not to die. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna, I die. If you find something that I've done, man, and that's worthy of death, man, I got no problem dying for it. But I'm appealing unto Caesar, man. Take me to Caesar. Verse 13.
Verse 13, and after certain days, King Agrippa and Bernice came unto Caesarea to salute Festus. And when they had been there many days, Festus declared Paul's cause unto the king, saying, there is a certain man left in bonds by Felix, about whom, when I was at Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him. To whom I answered,
keep that in mind too. The chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him. All right, they wanted to deliver him up. Go ahead, verse 16.
Verse 16, to whom I answered, it is not the manner of the Romans to deliver any man to die, before that he which is accused have the accusers face to face, and have license to answer for himself concerning the crime laid against him. Therefore, when they were come hither, without any delay on the morrow, I sat on
Shalaki,
the
that's all I wanted was 15. You know what I'm saying? We could You could deal with that later, man. Again, it's you read further on and go into. I think we're gonna go into. Well, we're not. Off the last slide, but we'll see here too, man. But now I do it. I'm gonna do it in a separate video. Um, far as that this other precept that I seen somebody get mutilated on. Um, but and it's because of not understanding the political climate and things that were going on during that time, and how things were handled. So we see even Paul was trusting his life more in the hands of Caesar than in the hands of the king of Judea and the elders and chief priests who were desiring to kill him. But that's all I wanted to get into. Just showing, we we may have this envision of what this thing was like and this heavy persecution during this time, but a lot of the persecution only came because of the disturbances that were being brought about by the Jews, the unbelieving Jews, when we was going into these synagogues, or when Paul was going into these synagogues and trying to teach the gospel of Christ. And so certain things were taken into place, and we see that Priscilla and Aquila point that brought this whole lesson together. Them being cast out, Rome casting these folks out, telling these folks they can no longer gather in these synagogues and do certain things. But to that point, and these other provinces, what I'm saying, that wasn't so, man. They had synagogues. You were there you could worship your God. They didn't care. But it's just certain things that he's talking about, that resurrection. That thing there was a little spooky to Caesar and them. And that they were brought up on charges for in that Act 16. But besides that, man, it's almost like it is here today. You know what I'm saying? It's almost, it's probably a little more intense than modern times, but this is pretty much where they pulled their government from. Everybody's pulled their government from the legislation of Rome. So we don't have equal rights here, but it's still it's still, you gonna win some, you're gonna win a few, but you're gonna lose most of them. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it's kind of the same thing. You see them fighting, we was reading that on Claudius, them fighting for equal civic rights, even there. But you can't expect that under captivity, under rule of another nation. You can't expect you to have the same, what I'm saying, standing within these court systems and these legislations as those who are ruling above you. You got to expect some kind of corruption there, to be there, some sort of favoritism for your own. And that's pretty much what the lesson was about. I mean, it's really nothing heavy, just going over what I'm saying, that political climate, just looking at the politics pretty much.